If you guys are not in the world, you probably heard of it too. So it was in Minnetonka. It was at something Presbyterian Church last week, okay? And there was a state rep from Minnetonka area and a city council person from Minnetonka area there speaking passionately about keeping ICE out of the city's parks and the city's property. So when you say, and I attend a lot of these types of meetings for my job, okay? And so when you say that they were saying things that I'm probably not gonna wanna hear, I'm very surprised. And that's why I'm asking you, who are you meeting with? Because even Columbia Heights right here, you spit and you hit it, okay? Columbia Heights right here. The mayor herself talked about ICE staging in parks and they closed down the park. So what you're saying doesn't match.
You can stage, you can put up a sign or put a regulation in place to say that you can't stage in the park, but then you can't allow anybody in the park.
So the documentation that we're seeing from our one is, you can put that out there, but you cannot discriminate against the federal government. So when you make some kind of declaration that you can't stage from a particular area, that means not only call the government, but calling the schools and the other community entities that stage from it. So one of the things we're trying to do is understand what are some of those things that we can do that aren't in violation of the federal state power position.
Right, so you're talking about 10th Amendment stuff. So yeah, so what I want to point to without getting into like a law school class, right, about what's going on is that there are plenty of cities, okay, that are out here and that are doing these things. And they're not saying, well, if we close down the park because we don't allow ICE to stage in it, no one else can use it. There are other school, I think it was the police chief of, I want to say Blaine, stopped something and then he went and made comments about why he intervened to protect a resident, okay, from being taken by ICE. And so there are many cities doing many things. What we are, I guess the issue that we are having, okay, is that our city is saying, well, police, we can't interfere, we can't ask about it. I don't think that you're answering questions that are being asked, right? I think that that's the first issue.
What questions are being asked?
So the questions that were asked last session were, if ICE is committing a crime, right, would you intervene to protect a resident? And what was said, because the city, the chief of police was not here, Captain Chief Peace was not here. But when he spoke at the city council meeting, one of the gentlemen in the audience then came at public forum and said that he was absolutely outraged by what the chief had to say. And so that there are a number of people, okay, that are not happy, right? And not because, oh, people haven't been happy for a while, but there are actual things that you can do. And what St. Anthony historically does, the leadership does, is you rely on city staff. Excuse me, let me finish. You rely on city staff and you rubber stamp whatever city staff says, right? We came up with, well, that's what we've observed. And so you came up with this leaving vehicles in the streets. And whereas right in Minneapolis, what's happening is the actually tow companies are not charging, so they are clearing the streets because who's leaving cars in the street? But this was you guys' suggestion. And sometimes it boggles the mind. I don't claim to be the smartest person. I really don't. I don't think I'm the smartest person. But some of the suggestions that are made sometimes feel like, are they being serious? Such as this one, with leaving cars. So of course, I guess the city manager strongly says, I strongly recommend not doing that. And so you manage to talk about a serious issue without actually talking about it seriously. And this is why, right, we're showing up today. This is why you have handouts being made on top of, it's available on the city website. You have to understand that just because you trust your city website doesn't mean that the residents here, all of them trust what's going on the city website. You heard stories last week. There's residents here that are brutalized by the police department, that are ignored by you. They're not gonna trust what's on the city website, and then when they do find it, Because a lot of times your links are dead, your links don't work. I know because I write a column on LinkedIn about the city council meetings, your links don't work. We do data requests, you don't have anything. And so this is where this is coming from. So when someone brings a problem and you say, well, we're doing it perfectly fine, must be something wrong with you, then that's what causes people to organize and keep coming back.
I had a question about, tomorrow's session and what the, I guess, agenda or just the outcomes we're looking for from that session.
So one of the things that's been happening is we've been having conversations and we've been trying to decide what can we as a city legally do. We asked our city manager to ask the city's lawyer, and then this is his response. And so we are trying to, as a council, tomorrow will be about, well, what can we do? What do we want to do relative to this? My understanding is from a position of saying that we don't want this staging on city property. That does sound like it has legal weight, and we could do that. One of the things that I have heard from other councils and other cities is that's certainly a position you can take. And if you take that position, are you inviting more scrutiny and more ICHs to come into your community? There are some communities that they are not taking that action because they're fearful that that would happen. That if you make that statement, you then must use some presence and do something to take action. Is that giving the ability to say that sounds more insurrection, right? And so trying to balance the weight of what legally can we do that would hold up in court versus what we're living with right now. And is that going to effectively do the best thing for the people in our community that we're trying to do? So that was one element. Some of the things we talked about then after this listening session, we went into the sessions in council, and we were talking about what specifically do we want Charlie to have investigated to find out. And from different things that we're hearing, that's what the things that are in here and the things that we talked to Charlie about, these are things we've heard that other cities are doing, and we'd like to understand from a legal perspective.
City council member El Nagbi is a Hennepin County prosecutor, and at this last city council meeting, she did make a lot of suggestions about what could be done, and those seem to have been ignored, is what it seems like, and you're going back to ask Charlie Yunker.
I don't know that those were
One
ignored.
of those looks like it was answered here. May St. Anthony provide evictions during the community airspace operations? And the answer is they may not impose an eviction moratorium. That was one.
El Nagbi brought up at city council, or are you talking about the listening session?
The listening session and then at the later meeting, I think it's 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock.
The city council meeting?
Yeah.
Council member, that was not because a lot of things that we did in the council meeting and subsequently to answer Charlie's question about what is.
Yeah, she brought a few things. She brought a few things, and I know because I reviewed the stream. So she brought up a few things, and I'm not seeing those being brought up here. And so that's why I'm wondering why she did not. And then there was a back and forth between you specifically and her during the city council meeting, where you said, well, we'll have to ask legal counsel, which I thought was pretty insulting because she's an attorney.
She's an attorney
Right.
with a specific specialty.
Yeah, but
She's hired.
No, but her specialty is to be a representative at large as a city council member. And you all bring, right, your backgrounds and who you are into the role. That's why, for example, getting anything from you can be very difficult for certain people who look like me and Lala, okay? So everyone brings their own flavor. She has her area of expertise, and she can do legal research, okay? I don't cape for prosecutors in particular, but, you know, it doesn't mean that she doesn't have an area of expertise and she's not a professional.
She doesn't hire to do this.
Yeah, but you weren't either. And so when you have someone that's speaking their mind,
Yeah, let's
right,
do that.
in the same role as you, okay?
Tell all
And to say, oh, dismissing, you know, we need to talk to our city attorney, that's what I'm raising, okay? That's what I'm raising.
We listen to her, but we also listen
Okay,
to.
even if you are, let's go get a breath of fresh air, please,
That
for our
person
health.
is experiencing city legal management. That's his full-time job.
Yeah, I think what you're identifying here is that person is protecting the city. That person doesn't protect the residents of the city. And every time you go with a risk decision to protect the city, especially in a time like this that's going against residents, there's a problem. Because it is us and our taxes that fund the city. And that's what you do is not okay. The reasoning is logical, but it's not okay. We, the people, elect, right? And you run uncontested, so you know, this little speech or not. But we elect people to represent us. And when you're representing the city, that's kind of wild. You're representing the government, not the people that the government
Yeah, right
serves.
here, let's put it in this trash.
And you're arguing as if that's just normal. That's not normal. And that's why we're here. That's why people are organizing.
They have to, come on, it's getting, you're holding the door. Let's go. Please hurry.
From what I understand.
Be on guard, class. Okay.
Legal residence or from being.
I have not heard that. What I've heard.
I'm gonna sit over there. That did happen.
Yeah, I can't remember what city it was.
Yeah, I know.
I personally seen it, did not, police officers, did not take this.
No, find outside. Outside,
She
outside,
said
get a breath of
she
fresh
doesn't
air.
remember the city. It happened in Blaine, it happened in Wilson, and I can't remember where
Fresh air,
else.
fresh air, yeah, outside.
But you look into
Fresh air.
that, someone else
2 seconds, fresh air, breath of fresh air, come back in. You guys go ahead with no pants on, all the time.
is people that are being taken. So if I am not asked for, police haven't any research. So my question is how is it that like not able to take these other citizens in Minnesota, I able to take them? Like what can someone can do? Because it's happening in Minnesota, a lot of residents.
We gotta find out where, you know, I mean, I believe you, but we gotta go where.
So if that's happening,
Wilmington?
if that's happening and it's a very, what can Senate do?
Having a little trouble hearing
Minnetonka,
what the issue you guys are talking about is. I can't hear it very well.
where did the police, intervene when there was a resident who had shown their passport and they intervened and they didn't get detained? Is what's being talked about.
I know that that's happened in St. Peter.
St. Peter, that's what I was talking about.
So,
recently, St.
so
Peter.
what I understand is if that's the case, police can intervene, but I also have heard that until that's presented, police can't intervene. The whole federal warrant.
I walk on it.
I think if it's here, you'll be able to. No, I'll have Velveeta. You're not welcome. And those, all those chemicals are just seeping into the bottoms of your feet. Okay, so let's finish up.
they're committing a crime. If I'm a citizen, I'm showing my citizenship, right? What they're doing is a crime. And
Our city police?
no, the ICE agents, what they're committing is a crime, right? How is St. Anthony Police not able to help a resident?
I don't know that that's not, I don't know that that's not the case,
By the
right?
time they fix someone, right, the harm is done. There's people in the hospitals, people
Yes.
that are passed away,
Yeah.
I agree, if I was in your shoes, I'd be scared.
you know? I'm scared my kids drive, my eldest daughter drives, she has to have a passport. Like, I'm scared if they stop her and I'm not there with her.
I totally understand
So
why
the
you're
after
scared.
fact doesn't count for me because the harm is already done for them. And then not just for me or anyone that's a citizen or even a resident in St. Anthony. What can St. Anthony do?
I'm not sure what we can do, to be honest with you.
Because if other cities are able to intervene,
To me, I see this as a federal issue, and our elected officials need to do something instead of talk about it, you know?
I was on a call and they talked about, it's unconstitutional for federal agents not to have warrants, right? And taking actions that are happening. And understanding what state law and state police can do in that case, I think is hard to understand. I do know that Chief Stees is in conversation with other police departments in the metro area. I have to believe that he is getting advice on what can and can't do. So, it's hard for me to speak to your example of a city where there was an intervention, and that's not happening here. I don't know the specifics about that situation. We can ask questions about specifics here and what we can expect of our police. I'm happy to ask those questions.
I have examples specifically here. Before Renee Good was shot, what looked to be ICE showed up at my house, okay? And, historically, when I've called the police, so I think it was like the week before, there was someone who had shown up at my house, and I have the video footage, and it looked like they had a firearm, and they were like, they ran up the driveway and they were trying the doors, for example. The way that the police responds is as if there is not a threat of an armed individual trying to break into vehicles, and then you do your little, like, complaint because you have your documentation, you have the St. Anthony Village policy, and it is an internal investigation that dies at the police department, and it gets rubber stamped by your city manager, who then compiles information for you at city council meetings, which you then rubber stamp, and that is our experience. I understand you don't like it, that is our experience. So, if I'm in the middle of some sort of an interaction, okay, I have to rely on my community. I can't rely on people, city council members who check their watches while I talk or defer to other people who talk about other things, or even the police department who acts as if we are all crazy. Gallo is crazy, I'm crazy. How, I can name so many people. Somebody even came and spoke at the city council meeting. He's an ex-city of St. Anthony resident, lived across the street, he spoke. This was happening before ICE was here, but it's even more intensified here. In other communities, there are parents getting together, groups, communities getting together, right? Beyond your Kiwanis and Northeast Youth Pastors, whatever board you're on, which doesn't really make sense because it's for people who have been charged, but anyway, whatever. So beyond all of that, people are intervening in the city and supporting each other here and in other places. The question that was posed to me has been, do I see police at the school at drop-off time because they're snatching kids and they're shutting down schools, there's credible, all of this, right? And then I have to ask how people who bring their kids to the school, because guess what? I had to pull my kids from the St. Anthony Village School District 7 years ago, okay, after the civil rights investigation investigation, which came through, and I got a nice letter from the superintendent now.
Do you need this open?
saying, if you return your kids to the school, we can sign them up in the nurse's office. So you have to understand the city that your family apparently has been in here since this place was full of pigs, okay? So you have to understand that there's been here since, was it a
My
dump or a
family,
pig?
my family is not.
Was it a pig farm or a garbage? No, I'm asking, was it a pig farm that was here? Or was it? Okay. Yes, so that's what I'm speaking to.
They have to let their rams dry.
It's not my,
What issue, this is an issue to me.
but I'm not from Senate.
You say that your family has been here for
I,
how long?
when have I ever said that? My I'm
You
from
said it,
Senate.
you said it here at the last meeting. You said here at the last meeting, I've been here longer than that.
I've been,
My-
I've lived
my
here for
family
40 years.
is in
Would I say that I'm from the pig farm area? No.
So this is not about where you're from, okay?
So
I'm
what
trying to
is-
finish the point about how the city doesn't respond, right? And I'm gonna keep on speaking, whether you choose to listen or not. You can align yourself with the Danielles and whoever, but these issues are still gonna be here. There are
So-
parents who are asking, is police at the schools during pickup, drop off? Because they see ICE activity, people have whistles. The 3 whistles for ICE is here, and then if you hear the long whistle, God forbid, that means there's enforcement activity happening.
So, may I?
So if the police showed up, they would just document, is what you're saying.
I can't speak to what their procedures are, but it's my understanding that if there is a federal warrant, there is nothing they can do to intervene with that. If there's not that, I assume there's something they can do.
That's what we.
I think he said no.
There wouldn't be a federal warrant for me, for example, right?
Right.
Based on, because of how I look at it.
Correct.
And
There
so,
wouldn't be a
yeah.
warrant.
so your questions are much more around, right, around.
So not the lawful actions, because there have been really
Yeah.
very few reported even in the news, lawful actions. There are snatching people who have passports. So that's what we're asking. So when we ask, we're not asking if I'm robbing a house and ICE comes to detain me or the police intervene. We're asking, I'm in my house asleep, ICE breaks down my door. I call the police, and what we heard from the police chief, and what we heard from you last week was that there's a separation. And you don't want to incur risk as a city.
I don't think it's that bad. One of the things that when we were talking to the representative, unconstitutional acts.
Are you naming these people? Who is a representative? Who are you talking? Because everyone has an opinion.
Staff from Washington DC. When unconstitutional things are happening, it is a challenge to understand how we can observe things, how we can effectively do anything about that. And one of the things we talked about is community is the key right now. All of the filming, all of the evidence that's being given to keep Allison, that is the only way we can make a difference for the illegality of the unconstitutional aspects that are coming in right now.
Well, you're saying it's the only way. There are multiple ways. I think you're
I
talking
get
specifically about
what-
charging or
I
something.
get what you're talking about from you would like to have a better understanding of what we can expect from our police department before we go to a situation.
Let's say the police intervene, say, what happens?
I don't know, but I can ask that question, right? I can ask that question.
He was asked that question last week at the city council meeting, and he responded on camera. And he said the same thing that you're saying, which, I'm repeating, which is the Ramsey County Sheriff, John Choi, they met, and they're actively working on, but for him right now, and for his department, not the city's department, they see it as, it's in quotes, where they will not act. And that doesn't mean that they will act. And there's a question there, and that's why it's in the handout. There are questions in that handout. And it's like, well, what are we going to do? Which is some of the questions that Paulo is asking right now as well. And so, I mean,
I can ask those questions. I can't answer them. I don't.
Like legally, what do you answer?
Good question. And I, as I understand it, around tonight's work session, we have both our lawyer and Chief City's there.
and our lawyer is the city's lawyer.
The city's
He
lawyer.
is not the lawyer for the residents, he's the lawyer for the city as a business. He is not, so when you say our lawyer,
It's the
it's the city's lawyer, it's not the city's residents'
Who
lawyer.
expects us to, confirm it? If it's not, the city.
You know, I wanna be respectful of my elders and be very clear as to what I'm saying, okay? If I want an attorney to represent me, I get an attorney to represent me. I don't say that somebody else's attorney is representing them as my attorney because the person who that attorney is representing was my supervisor. You were in business, you're asking me a question that I hope you know. So when you're a CEO, right, and your company gets in trouble, the company's attorney will advise you to get your own attorney. So when you're saying our attorney, that is the city entity's attorney. That is not the attorney for even you as council members. That is not the attorney for the public. And what that attorney is going to do, if he's a good attorney, is he will protect the entity.
Room is started, but
And unfortunately, the people are suffering because it's having a disparate impact. Okay?
I think sometimes in the past too,
How would I suggest to remedy that? What did I just say? You repeat it and tell me.
I'm not actually super down to break.
The city attorney is making matters for the city, but not considering
I feel bad, but my first start.
His job is to protect the city, correct, and to bring you guys solutions, to give you guys the risk that the city may incur. That is that person's job, absolutely. So, as a city council person, or as an elected official, you're meeting with other elected officials, and you're getting their opinions on things, you know? I would say do what they're doing, which is take other people's opinions as well. Know who you're talking to. Maybe you have a friend who does constitutional law, okay? Talk to that person. Ask them questions. Maybe you have a friend who does another kind of law. Talk to that person.
Chucking too much stuff.
He asked me a question, and his question was, right? If you're saying that only listening to the city attorney is not good enough, what else should we be doing? And I'm answering that question, okay? So you should be doing other things as well, listening to other people, and then you take all of that and you do it. I don't see you doing that. I see you holding anything that has this on it, and then rubber stamp it. You don't have to think, you can just do it. When you swore in, you couldn't even, like, you were messing up your oath. I mean, and this is what we have to deal with, because you represent all of us, even me. And I'm looking at you guys like, wow, this is where my taxes have increased to. So yes, I suggest that you do that. You talk to other people. You not just gag on whatever the city is handling. That's what I would suggest. Oh, it looks like the name tags came out on Danielle and the other people left. I'm sorry, what? Is it their legacy?
I'll tell you.
Yeah.
I want to just say, when I read this, I don't see any no's in what the lawyer is saying. It just seems like they're saying where to be careful at. Everything has a limitation where likely may enact this, Even the one that for the eviction moratorium, it's very specific in saying you cannot do it specifically responding to ICE actions in the city. That doesn't mean that you cannot find another way around. So you can't just take everything as a no when there's possibilities to move forward and do other things. And I think that's what she is speaking to when she's saying, talk to other constitutional, somebody who's a lawyer who specializes in constitutional law. This is not, nothing in here is a no, and you have to look beyond that because residents are suffering, and, you know, people in St. Anthony are affected. So you can't just stop at a no even. Even if they said no, you guys are in power. You can change these things. You can find other ways to do it.
They actually let the city manager run the council. If you watch the meetings, whatever he did, and what should we do, Charlie? Should I excuse myself because I'm on the board? Oh, I don't think you should. And then they just sit there and vote. It's absolutely maddening. It is absolutely maddening.
Thanks for coming.
Still on the table for other people.
That was interesting. At least I feel it was.
Is this This is.
I'll need that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, it's not-